everybody. It's Beer 30 Live. Hi, how you doing?
Hola.
Yeah. I wasn't ready for my own cue. I was listening to music, and I got all excited. Started to fade it out. I'm
Yeah.
like, God
You're like,
damn, what do I say
that's
now?
me.
I got nothing.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
No, I'm going
Wow.
to tell you, I'm Pete, Wright, and Mary Bradbury Jones, hello.
Hello.
And Jamie Whitley,
Hey,
welcome. Welcome back to John Barleycorn's McMinimans. Very quiet in here today. Where is everybody?
Where is everybody?
And
It's
today's
sunny.
Thursday.
It's a nice day.
You would
and
think that maybe
yeah.
people
This is
would
like one of
be-
those episodes like Fringe, where just people disappear. Like everybody's gone.
And
Twilight
I'm so
Zone.
happy, and Fringe is starting to come back on.
Oh, I
now.
can't wait.
All my little shows.
Oh, no,
are
see, this
great.
isn't a show I've heard of.
Fringe.
What? Oh, you got to go
Oh,
catch
man.
up on Fringe. It's
Fringe is
the
Really?
best.
What's
Yeah.
it all about?
Fringe. It's X Files. It's
so
Twilight
it's
Zone.
sci-fi.
Kind of, it's sci-fi.
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
It's fantastic. But
What
you know,
channel?
Pacey Witter is on it.
Who is
Pacey's all grown
Witter?
up from Dawson's Creek,
Yeah.
don't you? This was
Oh,
like,
Yeah.
I did not watch Dawson's
yeah, no,
Creek.
all right.
Isn't
Well,
that
anyway,
the
he's all
show-
grown up, and he has a
Oh, it's a
permanent
guy.
perma 5 o'clock shadow
Yeah,
going. So
it's,
he's
it's a good
very
show.
metro and all in and very cool.
But the
and
main character, the lady, she's
Yeah.
she's hot too. So that's
She's
good, too.
really,
She's good.
you know,
she's from like Australia or something.
I'm gonna
like
say
that,
it.
right?
Yeah, she's smoking.
Yeah,
she's
she is.
Awesome.
Yeah, we
Now,
like
They
Fringe.
try to bland her down.
They
Have you
do?
noticed that?
Yes.
Hard to do.
Yeah.
Really.
It's not like
Why
they're
do they
dressing
want
her
to
up.
blend her down? You
No,
think
because
they
you know
wouldn't?
she's
She's
like
an
this
FBI
FBI
agent,
kind
right?
of, you know.
So you don't want this really.
Well, come on,
wild
CSI, they waltz around with,
Yeah,
they're
it's-
crime
it's-
scene investigators with their boobs hanging out.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
let me
it's not
tell
quite
you,
like that.
not a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that.
That's why half
Yeah.
the guys in America watched Friends when it first came out, because it was 3 chicks that walked around wearing tight shirts.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the formula for that show. That's
So,
exactly right.
what's the
What's your point?
problem?
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, what channel is this on? Is it on the Sci-Fi
This is a
channel?
Fox,
Yeah,
a
it's
Fox
Fox. Okay.
show.
Bones is back on. That starts tonight.
You know,
so
were
I
you
watch
into
that
the
show.
Bones?
I am.
Did you
I
do
like
the Bones?
Bones has a
I've never done
really
Bones.
strong following. I mean,
Yes.
I don't watch
Yeah.
it, but the people are really
It's
insane
David
over it.
Boreanaz. People dig that guy.
Yeah, the Bones is really good. The mysteries are pretty cool. The science is cool. It's one of the reasons why we watch it. It's kind of interesting to see how they do it.
But don't they weave humor into it?
They
Is
do.
that right?
There's
So it's kind of
there's
funny.
A lot
as
of
well?
sarcasm and humor that's
Have you guys
involved in it.
have you guys done Psych?
No.
No, done sight.
Have you done the show? Have you watched
Oh.
Psych?
Oh,
Done
yeah.
Psych. I'm
Well,
speaking
no.
colloquially.
Oh, I
Yeah.
get it.
No, it's okay. Remember West Wing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the assistant, president's assistant,
Chief
you know,
of staff?
no, his
Oh.
the Dulé Hill.
Oh yes.
Right.
Okay.
So
Who dated his daughter for a while?
yes, he did. He was fantastic. So he is now on this show, Psych, with another guy, James Roday. It's going to their 4th season. They've been on for a long time, but they're on like TNT or one of the random networks.
Okay.
And it's all about the other guy plays he's very observant. Apparently, that's his character thing. But everybody thinks he's a psychic, and so he just went with it. So now they started a psychic detective agency. He's not really psychic,
Psychic.
but it is a very funny show, and they are partners. And that's one that's worth catching. It's lightweight, you know. I like.
Was
the
Lie to Me renewed? Do you guys know?
I don't know.
Lie to
I
Me.
don't know.
Have you ever seen that show?
Uh-uh.
Oh, that is a great show.
No, I haven't.
You know the show, Lie to
Yeah,
Me?
well,
See.
it's the psychiatrist one, right?
Well,
he's a shrink.
but he studies people's facial features and their gestures to know if they're lying.
Oh, interesting.
And
yeah.
then so he solves crimes and things based
Based on
upon
that.
interviewing people and
Are your
looking at
eyes
videotapes.
fluttering, or your-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you flinch? Did you scratch your head when you were talking about something? Did you slump your shoulders? How did you do it? And I've read that the vast majority of what they do is based upon science. That they have some experts who are there consulting with them, and it's very true. So it's really interesting.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So then in
That's
my
very cool.
family, then we're taking that and we'll talk
trying-
to each other, trying to fool the other person. They say,
See if
wait
they
a
can tell."
second, you scratched your nose when you said that. You're lying.
It's that whole NLP thing. Are you lying
Yeah,
because you looked up and laughed?
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's very cool.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a good show, but Bones
Well,
is
it
on
looks
tonight,
like it
so.
must be because I just Googled it and there it is.
It's still
I mean,
up.
there's Fox season premiere Monday, September 28th.
Oh, it's coming up. I'm so excited.
So,
That's coming back.
Yeah.
I just went through my my TiVo thing, got all my things set up. What else?
That's what we did the other day too.
Yeah, you got to get it all set
All
up.
the
what do you
different-
mean?
Well, you got to set up the schedule
Set up
when
the
you want
series.
your series to record.
Well, I know, but if it's from the last season, isn't it just going to start recording?
I delete
don't
all that. I
know.
clean it all out because
Yeah.
there's shows I don't
Do?
watch.
Yeah,
Some
or
shows
what
I
if
don't
they
watch.
change their nights or different things
Yeah.
like that? So we reset it all up. And then we figured out we have a
What do you
problem
mean
on
if they
Thursday
change-
night. I
I
don't know.
thought
what-
with TiVo, when you just like select the show.
Well, I don't
No,
actually
it
have
might.
TiVo. I say TiVo, but I don't have a TiVo.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
I don't know. You might be right.
Yeah.
I'm like Pete though. We kind of get rid of it.
Oh,
and
do-
reset it
oh,
all
okay.
up,
Start from
but-
scratch.
Yeah.
Did you catch Defying Gravity? Did you ever look into that one? The space chicks in space, Grey's Anatomy in space.
Oh, that you told me
good.
about
That was
that on
good.
that one episode. No, I have
That
not.
one I
Do they
think
run
is- I
around
think
in like short tops and stuff?
Chick-
Yeah, yes, with no
Chicks in
gravity,
space.
except for there is mysteriously gravity. They're not very good at playing with gravity. Occasionally they'll talk about how they have all this science about gravity. In the next scene, you'll see somebody tossing a baseball up in the air, and it has no trouble coming right back down to his hand. So anyway.
Yeah, I would pick that apart too.
That
much.
one is
That's-
8. They've done, I think, 8 episodes. That's on a break now because
Oh.
it was an early season launch, and it's been replaced by some of the returns.
House is
When
the
is
other one
Lost?
that's
House.
When is
Oh,
Lost
House is
coming?
yeah.
When is Lost coming?
could
Probably
never
not till like
remember, I think.
January.
I
I
could
think
never
it's
get
late.
into Lost. I
final
never.
I need
season.
to.
Yeah, I just.
I'm gonna
never
get it.
get
I have
into
to
it.
watch a season. But
Do
Dexter,
it, Netflix it.
Dexter, you
Yeah, I
guys.
started
Seriously.
watching that. I
seriously.
did. I watched that for a season. It was good. I need to.
We like Dexter.
I need to get online and get the rest of them.
I just
Yeah.
finished season 3.
I just finished
last
True
week.
Blood from HBO. That was okay.
Yeah, what did you think of True
Was
Blood?
it?
It was all right.
You know the problem with Sookie? Sookie
Yeah.
can't act her way out of a wet paper bag.
She doesn't
She's like,
need to.
she is just terrible.
she doesn't need to act.
Oh, well, there's that. But she's just terrible.
I didn't really like the plot line in this season 2. It wasn't as good
Huh?
as the
Well,
first
I haven't
season,
seen
so.
season 2. We just
Yeah.
since we do it
Oh,
after the fact.
yeah, it wasn't as good, I didn't think. But
Suka?
that just ended Sunday night. So.
I started calling my wife Sookie. now.
Oh.
I had to call her. She doesn't. I don't know that she doesn't get the ref. She didn't watch True Blood, but
Yeah.
Okay.
she's Sookie.
Well, we were talking the other night because when you look at the ads, like when HBO's just doing their ads, it doesn't look like it would be good because of just how the ads are.
Oh, really?
But I think it's because you don't understand this. You don't know
Yeah.
what's going on in those ads. You don't understand the relationships or whatever
Right.
the storyline is. And so when you just look at it, it's kind of
It's good. It's kind of an edgy vampire. Vampires are
I
in
mean,
now,
sex
right?
and blood.
No, there's a whole
exactly.
new Vampire
So,
Diaries.
Yeah, I
out,
watched
and
the first thing.
It's
It was like,
lame.
yeah, it was very lame. It was like 90210 with
It's going to be
fangs.
canceled. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I know.
Let's not
I
go
know you're probably on the edge of your seat for Melrose Place.
oh no. No,
Please.
no. It's funny because Melrose Place, of course. What's the other one?
The
90210 is back. There was
Uh-huh.
the movie Fame is now coming out, and we're betting
I
our
loved
house.
Fame.
Yeah, but how long till now? There's a Fame TV show.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure, right?
No, but I
That's gonna
love the
come
Fame
next.
TV show. But
Yeah, I did too. But I mean, it's like everything that was old is.
Yes,
new
I know.
again.
It's all being
Because there's a
recycled.
dearth
It is.
of creativity. Nobody can come up with anything original anymore.
it's all going to be recycled.
it's all recycled.
Fashion,
That's why you should
shows,
listen to this show more
music.
because it is very creative.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
totally
very
original because
edgy.
we have no idea what we're going to talk about.
We
from
never
minute to minute.
prep. We just
never
show
prepare.
up, start drinking and talking.
Uh-huh.
I did look up
Story
Lost.
of my
Looks
life.
like it does not start till it says begins early 2010.
All right.
All right.
So
There you go.
I had a feeling they'd be like January. We'll have January to May and it's
Yeah.
over. And
Yeah. Glee. Did you watch Glee?
Yeah,
No.
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 I'm gonna admit it. That's my guilty pleasure. I'm gonna say it
it
out loud.
looks, it looks a
Public.
wee bit queer.
Yeah.
No, it's queer. It's all queer. The second episode, the Glee coach actually starts a male a cappella group, which I gotta
you
tell
were
you,
part of.
it's
We
it's,
need to get your little group in here and let's get you.
It's not. It's no. There's. You know what the thing
Oh,
is? That there's
please.
nothing.
No.
There's
Have
nothing
some
cool about
dignity.
it. No, there's a lot of dignity when no one's with you. And it's like this,
And you're all.
and you're all
by-
together.
yeah.
Then you think
And
because
there's
there's
nobody
you know
Think
who's
you're cool.
Yeah.
who's cooler? Nobody.
Yeah.
When you're together and you got your whole group think and you
Yeah.
realize, oh my God, we are so stupid. This is so gay. Oh my God.
Oh, that's funny.
Man.
Yeah.
Very funny.
So that's definitely a guilty pleasure.
For some of us.
For some of us.
For others, not even.
Let's see what else.
Yeah, no guilt, no pleasure.
Yeah,
No. What's going on in the news? What's new this week?
I'm totally okay. So I walk in to set up. I'm burning at both ends. I got just too many projects, and I'm way behind on news. And the first thing Mary says is, "Oh, I got stuff, but I can't tell you because I want to tell you, and I want to get your natural reaction."
Well,
I
Mary,
just had
what
a
do you
few
have?
healthcare examples.
Well,
Mr.
latest-
DeMille, I'm ready. I'm ready for my
Healthcare
closer.
is
I mean, it's still just
clearly
the hot topic,
The
and-
big debate, isn't it, right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple things, but you want to start with healthcare?
Sure, if we want to.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was just going to talk about, when the whole pre-existing condition thing.
Yes.
And so just a couple things where I think this is quite interesting that are coming out around people with pre-existing conditions. So
It turns out that's fraudulent now.
in some cases, in 7 states plus the District of Columbia, getting beaten up by your spouse is a pre-existing condition.
Oh my God.
So what they say is, you're in a marriage with someone who's beaten you in the past, you're more likely to get beaten again, and so
Yeah.
therefore you're too expensive to insure. We don't, or we will, but if you have any injuries due to being beaten, we don't cover those.
Yeah.
Wow. Then you've got,
Wait a minute. What?
yes,
Yeah, so if your spouse beats you,
and you need to go to the hospital for treatment.
It's your fault?
Yes.
well,
Well,
so
it's because you're
it's
not
our
with
Are
a,
you serious?
You're with
Are
the
we
person
gonna,
who will
we don't
beat
have
you.
anything to say about
Well, you're
that?
managing risk. So I'm not defending the practice. Nobody's saying I don't think this is cool, but the business is saying how risky are you to use services that go beyond your premiums? And if you fall into that category, the risk is high. So they say we're not going to insure you. It's shitty, but you understand where it comes from.
And this shows you where one of the things I think with the whole healthcare reform has been the different things how they do discriminate based on different groups of people, and obviously women are getting hit in a few categories. So that's one. The second one has to do with maternity issues, and but according to Kaiser Family Foundation, only 14 states have a requirement to actually cover that. So.
To cover
Some
what?
states won't cover pregnancy because what they'll say is having a child is a matter of choice.
Great.
And therefore they won't, they'll cover you for this, but if you get pregnant, they won't cover that. And they go on here to talk about how even Bobby Jindal spoke of that truth when he did one of his, maybe it was when he did that horrible rebuttal to
Yeah, which is very
when he
bad.
came,
Oh my
anyway,
God.
but
Right.
where he says there, when he was talking about his parents, when they arrived in Baton Rouge, my mother was already 4.5 months pregnant. I was what folks in the insurance industry now call a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
So, so talking there. Well, now here's an interesting thing. They go on to talk, when a woman isn't currently pregnant, she often still can't get coverage. Now many insurers consider a cesarean, a C-section, a pre-existing condition. So if you had one prior,
You're more than likely.
they
to have
well, and they
another one,
won't
right?
cover it if you need another one. And this is coming. There was a Colorado woman who had Golden Rule Insurance out of obviously out of Colorado, and she was turned down because she had given birth by C-section. And it looks like, at least what it's alluding to here, it looks like that she had the baby by C-section, and then they came back around to say we won't
Yeah, we're not
pay
gonna
for
That's
it.
insane. That is insane.
Well, it does show to me that if we aren't going to go to a single payer, and I don't think we are, I think
no,
that
they've-
discussion is
They
dead.
killed that.
Clearly, as part of the process, there needs to be some standards that are set that go across all states. Because what's happening is you have these insurance companies that are cherry picking states, or they're the only game in town, and they set these standards, and they're not fair, and they're not certainly helpful for the average folks. And so you've got to set some kind of standard as process of the whole thing. So here's the minimum standard we accept, or the levels, or whatever you do. I don't think you have a choice.
Well, it sounds like that's the, as you look at these state-by-state rules, those, it appears that it's the state-by-state lack of consistency that's maybe even a bigger problem.
Hey, I would agree with that. I
Then-
think the
Could
two
be.
major problems are and I've argued this before, lack of competition. There are a lot of states that only have one or two people
Yeah.
that are there, right? So there's no competition, and
Right.
then there are no standards, and there's no way for you as the consumer to shop eloquently among them and pick, okay, if the standards are all the same, who has the best price, and maybe it's service for you, it's maybe any number of things. That's why, and I'll go back and harp on this again, the only plan that's come out that really solves that problem is the Ron Wyden plan.
Well,
and
this
he's
is what
finally
I-
getting some press.
You said that
Well, yeah,
this last
it's
week.
got
I
now-
read
Yeah, he met with Obama on Wednesday. I mean, he's really starting to it's starting to pick up speed because it's the only one that really sets standards, sets up exchanges in all the states, and then gives you the money so you can personally make the decision that you want to make. And if you're so many X the poverty level, provides you with money, and so you can select your own insurance for your family. And then it penalizes you, of course, if you don't select insurance. I mean, he's the only one that really, in my opinion, outside of a single payer system, it's the only plan that really has
Well, it
solved
seems
the
to-
problem that has been endorsed by the CBO and is cost neutral and saves money actually over a couple of years.
Well, and you have, I mean, obviously the finance committee just came out with their plan,
Oh,
and they
it's-
have fines if you don't
That'll be pretty typical.
have insurance.
Yeah, that's a mess.
And
Mhm.
yet
Mess.
there's things in there about leaving your employer. I mean,
It's
anyway.
a convoluted mess.
I highly
That
recommend-
plan that Bacchus came out
Yeah.
with. or
Yeah,
whatever,
it's
a
disgusting.
mess.
It's disgusting.
It'll
Yeah.
never pass. I mean, he
it's-
got shellacked from
And-
the right and the left. And I mean, it's a
Yeah.
pile of shit.
And this is what how long have they been working on this?
like a year. Or, I mean,
Well, probably not a year.
Like,
but-
this is
but, I
your
mean,
big brain,
6
your big
months at
brain trust
least.
comes up.
I'm a big believer. The White
Well,
House.
and
what you
Wyden's
come
was like
up
2
with?
pages.
Yeah.
Like you,
Well-
it's like a sketch on a napkin.
Well, his is bigger than that. His summary,
on a napkin.
his summary that's on his website's only a couple of pages that lays it out.
We got to keep it simple.
But again, yeah. But again, the CBO has looked at his and says after 2 years, it'll start saving money. It'll cover the vast majority of Americans. It'll keep prices down. I mean, it's the problem is it does this. It forces health insurance companies to compete, which I don't think they really want to do.
No.
I think that's
Really?
one of the
You
reasons
don't think
why.
so?
No,
Huh.
it's one of the reasons
God,
why
that somebody
I-
should tell Obama.
I think it's struggled a little
He
bit.
should know that.
Yeah.
Did
Gee,
you
thanks,
know that
man.
these guys don't want to compete
Well,
with
here's
each
what's
other?
interesting that Taibbi talks about in
Sure.
here that I didn't really
I hope
know.
you choke on your hummus.
Yeah, I almost did, Joe. That was awesome.
On his homo. That's what Jamie called it last week for our listeners.
I don't know anything about that.
But one of the things that Matt Taibbi was talking about in this article in Rolling
yeah, yeah.
Stone,
What is this? You gotta
I highly
introduce
recommend
this
you just
article.
check the article
What is
out.
this
Well,
article?
it's a very long article. I mean, he's an I guess what's left of investigative journalist. So I think it just came out in the recent issue, and basically it just says it's the titles, how Washington's screwing up health reform, and how it may take a revolt to fix it from the people. And so he goes in here and explains how before they even went in on August recess, there were 4 complete bills done. One in the Senate out of the Help Committee.
Where
and
it
then,
should
and then,
come
right,
from.
and then 3 out of the House. They were the only ones messing around, jacking around, not getting their work done. And so it's like, well, we didn't even hear about how half of these were done. I mean, we heard
Yeah.
about HR 3200, but we didn't hear about some of these others. And it's very interesting. He talks about Wyden. The Free Choice Act. So he brings that up. It's just really, it's very well done. I mean, he's, it's gonna piss you off. Let me
Let's
just tell
talk
you.
about what is going to piss me off. I'm excited about being pissed off, and I want to know more about this revolt thing. What am I going to have to do? Do I pick up arms? Do I get to pick up arms?
Well, I'm ready. Oh, I'm kidding. He basically just talks about how they, it's not just their incompetency, that there's more going on here, and that
Isn't it?
they've all worked to kill this thing on both sides of the house, and that.
Isn't part of it that special interest drives a lot of those guys?
Oh,
I mean, and
absolutely. I mean, they're bought and sold.
So when they're making these health plan reforms, they're trying to thread the eye of the needle with their language and everything so that they can
loophole
kind of-
after loophole
yeah,
too.
kind of appease everybody
Yes.
rather than just kind of stepping back and saying what's the most pragmatic approach to this and saying that's what we're going to do despite all the different special interests.
Right, and kind of what he alludes to in his, which is, it's all that shenanigans that they do to really appease their corporate sponsors. I mean,
Right.
let's put, I mean, why don't they start wearing T-shirts? I mean, let's
Exactly,
do it.
with little
Yeah.
patches.
You guys
that
all
says-
They
become
need, like-
bikers, like those
Yeah,
guys that
they-
bike.
Exactly.
And I want to see
BMX.
all the labels
Hey.
on you where
You're
you
going to
get
need
money
a bigger
from.
jacket.
Can you imagine?
But that idea's been out for years, and I agree with it.
I mean,
You
that would
should have
be-
sponsored by.
Yes.
You're just gonna wear it all around,
Absolutely.
right?
and you have to reveal it.
Yeah.
Helmets. and-
Exactly. Well, so so I think because of that, but then they want to make it look like to the American people that they're doing something for them. So they make all this convoluted
Yeah.
stuff, and then they walk around and say, "See, government can't do anything right, anyways." And then the American people go, "Yeah, you can't, because look what you just gave
Right.
us," and it just perpetuates.
I
It's-
agree with that.
But here's something interesting. So, you got the Gang of Six sitting on this finance committee, and for whatever reason, they must be the most powerful because everybody talks about how even though there's 5 other bills, theirs is the most important, I guess, because they're
I
finance.
don't know.
So here, we just talked about this a little before. You got this group of 6. They represent like 6% of the population of the United States, and
Because they're from ridiculously small states.
exactly Montana, Iowa, Wyoming, North Dakota.
Montana.
So here you have, Max Bach is head of the committee from Montana, received over $2 million in donations from healthcare. Grassley, who's next, is $2 million. Snow from Maine received $756,000, Enzi from Wyoming, 627,000. Those are the three, Republicans, and then I'm not sure about Kent Conrad or Bingham from New Mexico, what they got, but Baucus got 2 million. So we got a group of 6 people in the back pocket, of insurance companies and
trying to author the bill.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's
It's
the
ridiculous.
systems of
It is. I just can't. Maybe I'm a big believer of Wyden's plan, but you know me, competition is really important. And so if you can build exchanges that require competition, give consumers the opportunity to pick their own insurance, and then they're going to and then subsidize those that can't afford it or are in the lower end, then people are going to make their decisions, and the best companies and the best will win. And that seems to be that's the American system. Why not do that and see what happens? It can't be that complicated. Try it out.
Right. Well,
So, I don't know,
I
it's
mean,
frustrating
we
to me.
were, when, Johnson was putting through Medicare, I mean, it was doomsday. It was over. It was going to be the end. It was going to bankrupt our country. It was going to do all of these things,
Yeah.
and it didn't.
has.
But here's something interesting he has in the article. He says there's currently more than 1,300 private insurers in the country, and they force doctors to fill out different forms following different reimbursement procedures for each and every one. So
Yep.
they drown them
Yep.
in all of this paperwork, and then they turn around and jack up prices. And he says that nearly a third of all healthcare costs in America are associated with wasteful administration. He goes fully
Wasteful administration, both on the part of the insurer, right, which we know is 30%, waste anyway, or administrative overhead anyway.
cost.
But now on the doctors too, because they're requiring so much additional
Yes,
overhead
and
to
they
get
don't have
insurers.
skills in this.
Right.
So every doctor's office, and I was hearing a stat that to have a person who can come in, who knows how to maneuver the system and understands all the different insurance companies and their rules, a doctor's office pays on average, it's about an $80,000 a year job that they have to pay just for somebody
Overhead.
who knows
Wow.
how to do all the filing. So he goes on to say here that fully $350 billion a year could be saved on paperwork alone if the U.S. went to a single payer system, because that's more than enough to pay for the whole thing. He goes, if anyone had the
billion?
balls to stand up and say so.
Oh my
Which, nobody will say that. No, because no matter who you are, you're in the back pocket of health insurance. They hedge their
Yeah.
bets. They give money to everybody. That's how it
Yeah,
works.
I mean, unfortunately, the scrapping of our healthcare system and in the insurance companies for a single payer system just, isn't going to fly. I mean, it's just
Yeah, no, that's
here we are.
Baucus
It's
said
like-
the same thing. It ain't gonna
yeah.
fly, even though he
It-
thinks it's a good idea.
It's like maybe, we drive on the right side of the road. Maybe it is safer to drive on the left side of the road, but we're not going to switch systems. It is what it is, So the question is, how do we make our current system as efficient as possible? But what that article points out is exactly like, and I posted this on our Facebook page, that book that I recommended people read called The Best Healthcare Anywhere,
Yes.
where that guy did that research, and it's the VA medical system. And one of the reasons why is because they use electronic record keeping for everything. They've got a very efficient system. They don't have the overhead that you have at the $80,000 person at the doctor's office.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't have that, and if somebody goes to the doctor on the East Coast, and then they happen to be on the West Coast 6
They
months
just
later,
pull up
they
the-
just pull it up on the computer. They don't have to order anything. I mean, it's just all seamless and all tied
Exactly.
together, so they can focus on just giving service.
Yes.
I mean, they have so much data. I don't know if you know this, but one of the examples they were giving in the book is they're pulling so much data out of that system that if all of a sudden hepatitis starts showing up somewhere in America in the VA, they can notice that and say, wait a second, why are we seeing more of this chronic disease or something in this area? Let's go in and let's start figuring it out.
Why
so you
it's
can
happening.
start managing this big pool of people and say, what's going on? And how do we address their needs?
And isn't this more important considering, our overuse of antibiotic, the super bugs that are happening now because of, our basically prescribing
Right.
drugs. And so, we have the chance to really be in a situation where some major awful stuff comes back to the United States that we haven't dealt with in a long time. And what are we going to,
Right.
you'd
And
have
we're
to,
not gonna
you'd
know
have to
about
have a
it.
rapid response.
Right.
You'd have to.
Wyden's
So yes,
plan-
I've heard the medical, electronic files would be a big one.
I think that should be part of healthcare reform. Even if you go to an exchange system where people start competing, start setting standards for how you exchange information and investing money in electronic records so that you can get rid of the inefficiencies
Right.
in the system. Because if you're not going to do a single payer where everything's under the same umbrella, so you can kind of do that automatically, you have to set some standards at the federal level to force everybody, into some kind of system where it levels the playing field.
Right.
But
Right.
we'll see. All I know is the current plan's basically out there look like crap.
They
and
do.
They're not
Yeah.
getting anywhere.
It's
And I'm not.
So what did
particularly
I
happy
miss
with
this
it.
week? I mean, is the plan came out of Bacchus's
Bacchus.
committee
Today or
This is
yesterday?
yesterday.
Yeah, and it just got shellacked.
just left and right, just
Oh,
everybody.
all
yeah.
over the place.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
and there's of course no public option at all
Oh,
Yeah.
in it.
oh.
Whereas the other four
The other
had
four
public
had.
options in it.
All right. So what's the White House's response? Do we have one yet?
No, not yet.
Obama's given a lot of talks.
Wyden and his guys met with Obama yesterday, and there is talk on the Hill that Obama might come out and support it. So that would be very interesting. to me.
Wyden's plan. Oh,
yeah.
that's-
And
See,
you-
Wyden's
so-
is not one of the four. Wyden's
Right.
has been on the front. He's been ahead of the healthcare debate for quite some time. His has been out there for a few years now.
Yeah.
And so it's
Now maybe you
finally
can just
getting
get
some
somebody to
traction.
listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got sponsors. It's got like 15 or 20 co-sponsors, Democrats and Republicans. Could be, though, the people co-sponsored it for cover.
Yeah.
You know, so they may not be real sponsors. It's like you can go on the campaign trail and say I supported it, and
Right, and then-
feel
but-
good
but
about
you
that.
don't vote for
But you're
it.
not going to vote for it.
Right.
So who really knows? But it
Is
has.
it because Wyden's kind of the nerd of
It's exactly
Congress?
why he comes from Oregon, right? And we're the
Kinda
progressive
hillbilly.
We're the weirdos
liberals.
up
We're the
here.
weirdos. He talks with a bit of a lisp. He's not the.
Yeah.
If you've met him before, he's a great guy. He's
Yeah.
as nice as can be, but he certainly doesn't strike fear in the hearts of his enemies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's probably why he's not real high on any of the committees, and so I
Right.
think it's he's probably hasn't gotten the traction that it should. So that's where I keep rooting for. We'll see.
Well, all right. This is a real downer.
Yep, sorry.
Hey,
But-
What do we have? What do we have that's good news?
I have kudos for
To-
Mary.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
When you don't act so shocked. Your hummus in your mouth. What's up with that? I have kudos for Mary. So last week we were talking, and Mary brought up the subject of some of the anger that's at the rallies and all this kind of stuff, and some of the signs. And her question was, is there a undertone of racism going on? And we discussed it and said, well, we hope not, maybe, blah, blah. And sure enough, on the front page of the news over the weekend was Jimmy Carter asking the same exact
Yeah.
question, and it's really starting to come up as a debatable point. And
Yeah.
so kudos to you for being ahead of the curve.
Oh, well,
That was very observant.
Thank
By
you.
3
Good.
days.
And did
By a
you
few days.
did you see
know?
some of the signs at that
Oh,
9/12 rally?
Man,
Oh,
they
my
were
God.
horrible.
That one where that woman was like, "We've got an African in the zoo.
Yeah,
we don't
I
need a
just-
lion one in the White
Yeah.
House."
Yeah.
I mean, Phil and I mean, literally, I'm like, I mean, my mouth. We're both not saying anything.
Yeah.
We're just like, and then we look at each other with our eyes huge, like, "You got to be kidding me!" And
Yeah.
she's standing there, proud as punch, with
Yeah.
that sign, and it's
Yeah.
like that.
Ignorance. Just
Yeah.
horrible.
I like the one where it was, give me back my country, Morans.
Oh,
See that one?
Yeah.
The guy who can't spell
he misspelled
morons.
moron.
Morans. All right, you can have it,
Okay.
Moran.
Well, in fairness to him, there's not spell check on cardboard. So.
That's what he needs.
There-
Fairness. You're right,
Yeah.
Mary. I need to give that guy fairness.
Okay, no, I'm
Well,
just teasing.
Good.
You know,
Lord.
a true liberal would say it's the government's job to provide him with a spell checker so he doesn't make that mistake.
Yeah.
So, if we were.
Spell checks on everything.
That's right.
There we
right.
go.
We should,
And
a
as an
spell
instructor,
check.
I'm always like, I wish a whiteboard had spell check.
Me too.
Sometimes you're in front of the class and you're like,
I just abbreviate it
Yeah.
and stuff.
You just take out all the vowels and
Yeah,
put a period
I do.
all
after
right,
it.
all right,
Yeah,
scribble
that's
it really
right.
and
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
oh, you can't read my script.
Constantinople.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kudos to
Yeah.
you for being ahead of the curve. And the discussion.
Well, and I haven't seen much on that, but I just heard he's getting just annihilated, Jimmy Carter,
Well,
by the right, I guess.
Well,
I
it
haven't
wouldn't be
heard
the first
anything on
time
it,
for
though.
him. Poor guy.
Bill Cosby, who I have a lot of respect for, came out and asked the same question today. And Bill's always been known for speaking his mind. And on both sides, Bill is the one who said that African American men need to quit bitching and start standing up and taking care of their families. And good for him for saying that.
And Obama said that.
And Obama said that, and Bill Cosby's coming up and saying, maybe there is a little bit of undertone of anger here, and we need to think about that, as a society. So, kudos to him for following him and Jimmy Carter for following Mary's lead.
Yeah, they heard
They
me
must
on this
be.
show.
I'm expecting they're big fans of this show,
I bet
Yeah,
they
which
are.
is where they've taken that
That's
idea
right.
and they've been
Said,
running with
man,
that.
that
So,
chick's got some ideas
yeah,
up there.
exactly.
I really.
We're still climbing the leading edge of the bell curve.
It's also the discussion I've seen come out too is not only is it the issue of racism, but the issue of anger that's in America right now. And we talked about this last week as well, and because it seems like a more angry time. And is it related to having a black man as president? Is it because the economy sucks and people are just feeling this stress in general? I mean, what is it? But certainly it does feel like there's a little more anger in the air and on TV and that kind of stuff.
And that just everything's more I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe it's, the news is still the same as it always is with all its stories, but because of what, the underlying things going on in society, it feels like there's more bad things happening, more crime, more killing, more all this
Or
stuff.
certainly
And there
notice.
probably isn't. It's just you're probably
you note it,
more.
you're attuned to
You're
it.
attuned to
Or
it more.
or we report on it more. I don't
Yeah.
know. Even the front of Time magazine is what's his name? What is his name? I'm looking at this picture here. Glenn Beck, right? Yeah.
Oh,
So
no,
kind of the
please,
discussion.
Glenn Beck. Oh my God.
Well, and
I can't. The guy
The
he
guy
makes me
cries
constipated.
like every 5 minutes.
He's
Well, he's a
What-
passionate guy,
No,
and
he's
but
an actor.
He
yeah,
is
but,
an actor.
But the question
He
in
is a
Time
fraud.
magazine is Glenn Beck bad for America?
Yes.
And it's driving this really wedge down. You're either with me or against me, and there's very little ground. And I'll bleed. I'll cry on my shirt for every little tiny thing that's American, and I'll be angry and all pissed off if I disagree with you. Is that the sign of the times, or I don't know?
I don't know, but there was an interesting thing with him where his rally, which I thought, that was his whole thing, the 9/12.
The 9/12 thing.
9/12
Well,
project, and he wasn't even there.
7 years, or in 2001, right? He said or 2003, I think he was on the radio show saying how much he hated the families of the 9/11 survivors because they just wouldn't quit their bitching. And now he's doing 9/12. The guy
right.
is a
Capitalizing
snake oil
off of it,
salesman.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
that's
But
all
he wasn't even
is.
at his own rally.
Well, and the question
That's
is,
because
is
he doesn't care.
Is he feeding off of anger and just kind of driving?
And it's
that
racking up
wedge?
his ratings,
Yeah.
and there you go.
Yeah.
Did you see
Because
the-
it's harder to be positive, I think, and raise people up than it is to be angry and divide them.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's easy to do that.
Oh, it's
well,
easy to
and
divide
yeah,
them.
absolutely.
And the whole kind of rising above that and trying to raise and I go back to Ronald Reagan. One of the things Ronald Reagan did pretty good. He was the optimist, so he tended to talk that way. But I think that's harder to do. It's
Yeah.
easy to be angry and frustrated. So
Yeah, very true. What I thought was fascinating was, they had the rally, and I think he was on Fox News, and they were talking about how successful the rally was, and somebody from Fox said, yeah, it looks like there's estimates of, 60, this was from the fire department, the police departments, right, 60,000. He goes, oh,
Yeah.
no, we had 1.2 million. He goes, this university, I don't know which one it was, but this university did a study, where they look at photographs and they measure body space, and it's like, you can't even name, if this is true, you're like some university, don't know who it is.
right.
Yeah.
And so then some other people went back to the fire department and said, report us. Is the 1.2 million? And the fire department's like, no, we stand by our estimates of 60, in the 60,000.
Right.
It was just like anyway.
It's his. I don't know if this is his website.
He
GlennBeck.com.
just says whatever he wants to say, whether it's true or not. He doesn't care.
This is what I love. The Glenn Beck program, the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment.
Well, at least he's
It's a fusion of something.
well, at least he's admitting that it's partly entertainment.
Yeah.
Problem is
that's
his
true.
audience
I mean, that's
doesn't.
at least being somewhat
It
legitimate.
is true. It is true. People take a lot of that as the gospel.
Right.
And
And
then you
it's-
come up with signs like that at those rallies.
Right. And then the signs that were
Morons.
obviously
Yeah.
printed by somebody, by some company.
Sure. Or it could have been
What was
an
that one?
individual.
Bury Obamacare with Kennedy.
Oh, really?
There was
Yeah.
one. There were those,
Oh,
and those
yeah.
were
Please.
fancy printed
Yeah,
ones.
it
So
could have been
somebody
an individual,
Yeah.
though. I don't like to throw companies under
Somebody
the bus.
went
you
to
know that.
Kinko's.
somebody
Right.
professionally made the signs.
But that doesn't
Jamie,
mean- but
there's
I
no
can
way
do
that I
that.
sat at home.
Right.
and
Yeah,
made
Yeah,
but
it.
I
I
can do
could
that.
do that.
Nobody's
I
going
could-
to
I could-
censor me at Kinko's.
Yeah,
I could
no,
print
I could
whatever
do
I want.
that.
I could
Go
even
to a
print
print-
Moran's.
Somebody could have gone off and done a bunch of
exactly.
stuff.
So,
Oh.
don't throw one under the bus. Remember, I already called you out on that one on the insurance companies. 3.3% profit
Okay,
there. Way
no
under
profit,
the
profit
margin.
Okay,
Right.
but what's the amount of money they're making?
Oh, that's not my point. Where they got that from was the S&P 500. So
Okay.
I'm guessing because they're the top 500 companies, they're making billions of dollars just like other companies,
Okay.
right? So their profit margin is less than, say, like GE, for example, that you buy light bulbs from. So
Yeah, but
I mean, it's
GE's
hard.
got like 30 subsidiaries and a whole bunch of stuff.
But
so,
my point is, you can't necessarily throw all health insurance companies under the bus. That was my
and
point.
what my point was is, I'm not talking about how much money they make. I'm talking about what they do. This crap, that we talked about, this
Oh, yeah.
pre-existing stuff, denying people. I put out on my Facebook page the other day about a colleague that I know
saw that.
whose wife with dementia. Okay, he's paying $8,000 a month in health care. He had
That's
to
insane.
liquidate his 401k.
That's
So there
horrible.
goes his retirement. I mean, this is what I mean. Like, this stuff is all connected. Everything is, and it can't be looked at in isolation.
Yeah.
No, and I agree with that. And I tend to argue that the challenge is a systemic one in terms of we don't have a system of competition, which then allows those health companies to act like that. Because
But
who's
isn't
there
that?
to,
But in
there's
the
nothing
end,
there
though,
to check them.
is
There's no
it,
check and balance.
what's the definition of the main purpose of a business, which is to make
Is to
money
make
for
money.
its stockholders or its
Absolutely.
stakeholders.
Yeah.
So that's been my whole point the whole time, which was healthcare should not be something that's for profit, because it's something that people have to have. I don't have to have Nike shoes. I don't have to buy Johnson & Johnson products to survive. These kinds of things. But
Right.
but
Here's-
healthcare is at the core of quality of life
I don't think that's enough, because when you say things like, I don't have to buy Johnson & Johnson products, you know what? Anytime you eat a soy product, you're eating Monsanto.
Whether you want to or
whether
not,
you
you
want
mean?
to or not, you
Yeah.
have to. Now that's the next. I mean, what's after healthcare? All right, we've already
That's a
had
good
this
question.
financial meltdown, right? The
Right.
dirty money's not off the books.
No.
At what point am I liquidating my 401k because some bastard on Wall Street lost all my investments,
Yeah.
or because of what? That affects my quality of life. My food affects my quality of life when all I can get are the unhealthy, mass-marketed, mass-produced products from cows that are standing in their own fecal matter. I mean, at some point, all of this comes home to roost. And right now,
does.
it's healthcare that's coming
And
home to roost.
food
But
is
what's
tied to
next
healthcare.
is food. What's
Well,
after that?
And that is the worry of the far right, which says if you allow takeover of healthcare, what's the next group?
That's right. That
Well,
should be the worry.
And-
And it should be a discussion, though, not of just governments taking over everything, but how the hell did we get this way? Right? How did
Right.
we get to the point where we have to have a babysitter?
Yeah.
Because our businesses are
We
too
can't
out of
trust
control.
them.
We
'Cause we
cannot
can't trust them. I mean, I think that's a big piece. And
I would actually argue.
It makes me come
But
off
it's
like
regulation.
a lunatic.
It's-
I'm not a
it's-
I don't
lunatic.
think
the
so.
government doesn't need to take over the food industry. They just need to have
They need a
some
babysitter.
regulations, some rules in place that they all have to adhere to, and when they don't adhere to them, they get fined.
Well, and we do, but I mean, there might not be enough. And part of the challenge
Well,
is
we have a hack in the FDA anyway.
I think
Charge-
that we could go back and say one of the things that's allowed companies to grow pretty big is technology. It's allowed them to quickly move money around. It's allowed them to quickly buy companies, quickly assimilate them. Technology lowers your barrier of entry. You can take a product and rebrand it really quickly and put it under your name. And so I think technology has made these big conglomerates a lot more manageable than they've ever been before. And we haven't caught up with how to manage technology. It's ahead of us at this point, and we're playing catch up. The financial situation, they were figuring out new products faster than we could regulate them. And so it kind of, and then of course different things happen with paying people off in politics, but they were advancing
but the
the
finance
technology.
and real estate industry, there'd been a
Yeah.
lot of deregulation on them
There
over
had
the
been,
last
but
8
at the
years,
same
which
time,
started to help some of this.
Technology allowed a lot of things to happen that couldn't happen before, and so they're way ahead of the government, and then you get in this hole, and so we haven't yet figured out how to manage the technology in our in our society.
Right.
I think
Well,
that's a big
here's
part
the
of it.
bottom line. Here's when you're dealing with money, okay, and if you go with some Buddhist principles, which is that we cling to the things that we deem as our self-identity, and we get very concerned of losing that, because it's not about necessarily losing the money, but if our self-identity is tied up in the money, then we cling to things and we get even more. And this is where people who have a lot of money still want more and more of it, because it's part of who they are. It's tied to their self-worth, their self-esteem, and their self-identity. And so if you give that and you think about, then the bottom line is some people are always going to be figuring out how to shirk the system and screw
Sure.
people to make more money. I mean, that is the negative side of capitalism. On the other
Absolutely.
side, there's lots of positives, but that's the negative side of it. There will always be a group of people trying to figure out how to get around
Absolutely.
the rules and how to screw people. And so if you don't have any regulation, if you end up shoving the government, in a corner, or if you're like, oh gosh, who was it that said this? You want to strangle the government till it's small enough that you can drown it in the bathtub. Who said that?
I don't know.
It was a conservative. Grover.
Thomas Jefferson.
No, Grover.
Benjamin
North
Franklin.
Benjamin
What I'm-
Franklin.
what I'm wanting
my
to say.
hero.
He says everything. That dude said
Ben-
everything.
Yes, he
Now
did.
we know Ben Franklin never said such a thing. Anyway, but so if you go, do you see what I
Yes.
mean? And so
It's
that
all about balance.
it's all about balance,
Yeah.
and you got to have some regulation. I mean, I worked in the financial industry for 10 years. That's what you're motivated by. That's what you're in the business for.
Yes.
When your product is money,
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
there,
So
everything
you're
else
always
goes out the
trying to
window.
come up with new creative investments that get you more money. That's what the derivative scandal was of the 1990s, when you
Yeah.
had these crazy derivatives that people were buying and they didn't even know what they were worth. And one day they had an investment that was supposed to be worth $1 million, and the next day it was
Yeah.
zero. I mean,
It is all about balance and doing that without choking out the things that make capitalism
right?
great. And
exactly. And it can be done. I'm one of
I
these
don't know,
people. I
it's a
don't
di-
believe it can't be done.
I think it can be done, but it's always gonna fluctuate between too much regulation and not enough regulation. I think that's just the natural way of things. That we'll put in a bunch of regulation, and people come along and say it's too much, and so then we'll deregulate, then something will happen, and we'll re-regulate again. I think that's just the way it's going to be.
But it goes
That-
back to your issue of technology, is that the regulation cycles are now so far off the
Yeah, they're
technological
behind.
cycles that
Yeah,
that
and that's
we
a
don't,
struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the challenge of capitalism is based upon greed.
Exactly.
And so then
That's at the
and that's
core.
okay. I mean, right? That by its definition. But then there is healthy greed, and then there's unchecked, unhealthy greed, and it's
Right.
trying to find the balance
The,
between the
the
two.
thing, though, that's different this time around, though, and I don't know, check me on this, because it's really been, this is the piece that weighs on me more than anything. It's that the ferocity of the conservative arguments against regulation are they're so loud that they've lost sense.
Well, I wouldn't say it's conservative because I consider
No,
myself
the
a
far-
conservative.
the far
Or
right.
just- or say neocon. I mean,
yeah,
that's-
neocon,
yeah,
let's say
neocon.
that.
And I agree. And I think that technology has allowed the fringe groups to amplify their message with a megaphone like never before, where before maybe they were kind of ostracized a little bit. And do they deserve a place at the table? Sure they do. Everybody does. But they're able to resonate pretty loudly, throughout and make points to the uneducated that may not be, very valid points, and it drives these big wedges.
Did
And
you see? Did you
hard.
see the YouTube video of Franken at the State Fair in Minnesota? in
No.
August?
No.
Did you see this?
No.
He was accosted by the lunatic fringe, and
Is this out on YouTube?
it's
I
on
take it?
YouTube. It's fantastic because it takes about 10 minutes and he talks them down. He
By-
really does
by discussing it with
by
them.
discussing
Yeah.
it and being he was not louder than they were.
Right.
He was persistent and more persistent than they were, and eventually they got tired of saying the same thing over and over again, and he ended up just getting the airspace to
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
there was. Sorry, but Claire McCaskill did that really well in her Missouri one. I don't know if you saw that, where they were all, and so she just went through a series of asking questions
Yeah.
and got them. Where in the end they were like, "No, oh yes."
Well, and you know what?
Like, I'm
Franken-
not sure what I'm
Franken-
for.
What Franken, that was it. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
yes,
screw you. No.
Yeah, no, but you know what Franken did so well is he latches on to the one little bit of truth that they may
Yeah.
be having,
Right.
and he goes crazy for that. He says, "You are absolutely right
Right.
about that,
Right.
and you are a better person because you're right about that." And
then
then he
brings
goes
them
and
along.
educates them, and they're at the end they ended up being
Yeah.
fairly civil old
But
grandmothers.
in 30-second sound bites, we don't do that.
we don't
very
do
well.
that. You
Exactly.
can't
We
do that in
can't do
15
it.
minutes.
It's really challenging, and it goes back to, and this even goes back to
So yay, YouTube actually.
what's his name that was
When you
just
put that
censored
out
by the Senate or
Oh,
the House,
Joe
right?
Wilson.
Joe Wilson. This whole thing about civility, how can we have this discourse if we're sitting there yelling at each other that you're a liar, and we don't sit down and we don't just talk about it
Yeah.
to try to come to a
Right.
reasonable point, and say, all right, we disagree here and we agree here, and pull out the facts, and let's have an intellectual debate about it, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll see where we arrive. But if you're just calling people liars and you're holding up signs and that kind of, then you don't get anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's unfortunately
I mean,
what a
who
lot
were
of
those
people are
people?
doing.
Like
It
it was
just
like
feels
a
like you
football
should
game
you
with their
lose
sign
your
on their
seat at
chest.
the table. You lose your seat at the table if you talk like that. That's
Do you think Wilson should have been censored? Joe Wilson by his
But oh yeah,
by
I
he's from
do.
the Senate, right, or the state?
No,
or
he's
the
House. He's House.
So he's censored
So
by the
he's
House.
under the rules,
rebuked,
whereas
right?
because the Senate That was
Okay.
the House chamber they were in, so it's House rules.
So I guess they have rules about what you can say and
Mm-hmm.
not say, and you know.
It's
You're
rules
never
of
supposed
protocol.
to.
You're
It's
no-
even on the floor when you're debating.
Yeah.
You
You're
don't
never
shout
supposed
out
to
another person.
whatever they call. Well, you can do that.
there were
You
words,
can,
though,
you
you're
can-
not supposed to use.
No, you're not supposed to do something where you accuse them where
Right.
it gets personal, and you
Right.
lie as whatever the term they use. Whereas you can sit and say, no, I have a problem with your point
Right.
there, and you're on the issues, but you
Yeah.
can't sit and say, well, it's because you're a liar or
Right. Or you're
you're in the
intellectually
back
dishonest.
you're
Yeah.
in the
That was
back
one of the ones you
pocket of
can't say.
they can't say those kinds of things. It's a
Right.
So based
So-
on that, yeah, he should be censored.
He should
for
be
that.
censored.
Yeah, yes.
Or rebuked
it
or
was-
whatever it was.
It was, he's rude.
It
and
was
and
I'd
poor.
like to say
apologized.
if it was a Democrat that did it during the Bush
Yeah.
administration and those
Yeah.
were the rules, I would have said the same thing.
Oh
You
my
shouldn't have
God!
done it. It was
Somebody
the
would have
rules, no
thrown up a
matter.
lung. If
The
it was
interesting thing
I
to
mean,
me is he's raised more money than his opponent.
Pretty close. I mean, I think aren't they?
Aren't they pretty close now?
Well, I don't know.
I mean,
I
they've
haven't
raised.
seen.
Last time I had looked, and this had been last week.
Well, they've got
sometime.
bumper stickers now.
Oh yeah, he had raised a ton of
Yeah.
money.
This was a guy that nobody even really knew, and
But see, he's
Now
getting
he's
the
on the-
neocon saying, "You go, Joe Wilson, right, or whatever
Yep,
his name
yep.
is. You go. You stand up for us. Obama's a big
Right.
liar. Blah blah blah."
Right.
So
And an interesting thing, now I cannot, we'd need to find this to see if it's true, but one night when I was driving home from teaching class, I was listening to this guy and he was talking about Joe Wilson. And Joe Wilson's whole thing was the immigration, you lie about the immigration, which, how many people, I mean, on both sides have said it's not true, it was not, it's
Yeah.
never been part of it, he was wrong. What this guy was saying that in 2003, in his state of South Carolina, he was on board with giving immigrants insurance.
oh really?
Yeah,
At that time.
at that time. And so where this guy was going was this wasn't about that. It was about race. Because if the guy was truly that passionate about that, well, then why
Right.
in 2003 did
Right.
he
Why
support
did he
such a
support it?
resolution
Right.
or whatever it was? And I think it was a South Carolina.
Well, we haven't solved the immigration issue because, or the illegal alien issue, because the healthcare. One of the challenges is supporting people who don't have insurance, and also supporting people who don't have insurance happens to be illegal. And so, even by forcing people to get insurance, what do you do with
But
people that come?
do illegals really even go to the hospital?
Well, evidently they do. I mean, we'd have to
emergency
try and,
rooms.
Yeah, we'd have to dig out some stats, but I think
They're
there is-
working on the dirtiest jobs in our country.
Yeah, and probably
No, but I mean
They're going to
Illegal
go be
ones.
taken to the emergency room.
probably the ones with.
See, aren't
with
they mostly
higher,
so scared to ever go anywhere where there's
No,
anybody that would
I don't.
kinda-
I don't know. I don't think so. We'd have to do some research. But then, how do you, this whole healthcare
Right.
debate? We
But
don't
you
seem to
need it,
really
but
talk
Jesus,
about
you
that.
need it because if you didn't, I mean that's the thing. Then
That's
they're
that's
they're
what
not
costs
going
us
and they're
so
walking
much.
around with some godforsaken contagious disease that's then getting everybody else sick, or
Well,
or they're laying on the street corner with their.
I'm not going to stereotype them like that, and everybody runs across the border.
I'm not
Has
saying
some
that.
godforsaken disease that they're going to give. Everybody.
That's not what I was implying. I was implying, which is why you need to have an avenue for people
Yes,
to
you do.
get care because
Yes, you do.
it hurts us if they don't.
If they don't, yeah.
Not in
it's
this
like
country.
why. It's like why
Not
you
in
should
South
get your
Carolina.
swine flu shot, Pete. Because if you catch it, statistically, you're going to infect 3 other people, dude, and we don't need that.
No, man, just
And
get
you're
me
not
started
gonna
on
get some
swine
kind
flu.
of
You know what?
disease,
No,
dude.
And you're not
the
gonna turn into
problem
a
with
cow
swine
or a
flu is
fucking
that
pig.
it does not help you. The studies that are coming out now are saying that it helps. You know what it helps? 0.81% of those who are vaccinated with it are actually helped.
Find that data and post it on the Facebook.
Dude,
account. We don't have
seriously,
time to
you
talk about
want
it
to
now,
throw
but-
down on
Yeah.
this? That
Yeah,
thing
I already-
scares the bejesus out of me.
I know you're shaking.
I'm
I
not
can
gonna
tell.
do it.
I already got my,
And you know what
my
the problem
regular
is?
flu shot.
You already did.
Oh,
Let me
dude,
tell you the
I'm
problem.
looking good. I feel good.
That-
I haven't,
you don't
started-
look that good.
Well,
I kid.
not even going to go
Because I
there.
love.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The thing is this, that the problem with the swine flu is that it attacks, it is far more virulent to healthy people because your own immune system attacks it, and the antivirus or the vaccine doesn't do anything about what's
Okay.
called the cytosine
So here's what I'm going
attack.
to do. I'm not going to run on innuendo. And,
Can you get
and we are going to find some real facts. We're going to post them on the website, and we're going to talk about it because I am going to get it at this point when
So
it comes
it's a
out.
separate shot.
Yeah, it is a separate shot. It's only one. You don't have to get 2 doses. Everybody in my family is going to get it. And my wife's
What do you mean
healthcare
2
worker.
doses? Do you normally get
Well,
2 doses?
they were talking that it might have to be 2 doses.
Oh,
which
okay.
they were worried about. Then compliance wouldn't be very high.
How do you
I
get
mean, why
people
would
in
you
for the
go
second
back?
one?
Yeah.
Right.
So now they're talking 1. But make
All
it
the-
be known
yeah,
that I did get my
if-
regular
if you
flu
really
shot.
need 2 flu shots, wouldn't you want to say, you know what, you just have to get 2 flu shots? You know what that is? A sign that they don't know shit about what this thing
Oh,
does.
it's not true, dude. They had to sit down and figure out what was the antibody
They had to sit down
response.
and make up stuff.
They're not making up stuff.
Oh,
and
my God.
The liberal left.
Liberal left.
Not, in on
Yeah, yeah, the liberal left.
I'm not
The
part of this conversation.
Uneducated arguments is just horrible.
I'm on the website now. I have
All
it.
right.
Okay,
You
so he's
find it,
finding
you
it.
find
So
it.
here's an interesting story. What about the chick found in the wall?
What?
The chick found in the wall.
On CSI?
No, in real life, that gal up
anything
in that
about
college
this.
I don't know
campus.
anything about it.
You don't know
You
anything
got to
about
fill
it?
us in on this.
Was she alive?
No. She was it's Annie Lee. Some say Lay but her name is Ellie, so I would
So
think that's
she was
Lee.
found in the campus.
She disappeared. She's about to
How
be
long
married.
ago?
Oh, this is just all coming out.
How long ago did she disappear? Not very long ago.
I think she had, wait, let me find the original, September, no, that's when she was found. Like, she was found on the day she was supposed to get married.
Oh, so she
So
didn't disappear that long.
No, it had
ago
been
then.
maybe
Right.
4 days or something
Right.
like that.
Oh, and they just arrested her fiance.
yeah,
Right? Didn't I
no,
see
not her
that?
fiance,
Oh.
a lab tech that
Oh, lab
also
tech.
worked with her at the university. No, her
Oh.
fiance was exonerated
Cleared or
or
something.
cleared or
Wow.
whatever. She was found, it was Yale.
Wow.
At Yale University, and she was found stuffed in the wall. And what I don't know is, how did they find her? Was it starting to smell?
I don't know. Man, that's sick. There's some sick bastards out there.
Anyway, 26 years old or something like that.
Or how about this one, though? Do you guys see the video with the white kid that was beat up on the bus by the black kids?
No, I did
Did you guys
not.
see that?
No.
Oh, it was
Let's
like-
come up with more stories that we know no detail on.
Oh,
my
man,
God,
it was
how
like
okay.
huge
Let's
news.
see, what
so,
else?
so this white kid on a school bus,
Yeah.
trying to find a seat, and I actually saw the video, beat up very, very badly by a few black kids and other people standing around, all African Americans, basically cheering him on. And the question was, is that racism, right? So if it had been the other way around,
It's racism.
The cry would have been, racism.
it's
If it would have
racism.
been white kids beating up black kid, if it's the other way around, is it racism? In my opinion, absolutely, it is.
Absolutely,
There's no
of course it
difference,
is.
right? It's the same thing. But there was a big debate for a few days about that. And then what do they do, and how do they handle it, and is it to be handled the same or not?
Of course
or-
it is.
My opinion, it should be handled the same. It should be looked at
Doesn't
as
make any
probably,
sense.
And
And just curious, where was the bus driver?
I don't remember I'd have to
Driving,
I'll
couldn't
find
pull
it.
over or something?
Yeah.
I'll post it. Yeah, because it was pretty interesting.
Wow. I mean, that would be, because that'd be, as a parent, that'd be one of, just as a concern, what was,
Yeah,
where
what
was
the bus driver
supervision?
doing?
Where's the bus
Right,
driver?
yeah.
I mean, it can maybe start, but if it's getting.
Right.
it
Yeah,
must,
the
of
video
course-
was from the bus camera, that they had taken it. And so it was-
Interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd say it's the same thing, and it should be
I
treated
would
the
too.
same way. That isn't.
I would too.
Okay, I just got to go back to the swine flu.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right, so get a load of this. The vast majority of healthcare workers are not going to get the swine flu. Majority of healthcare workers refuse the seasonal flu shot. The most common reason given for the refusal, and rightfully so, was potential side effects, followed by questions about the vaccine's efficacy. Even among a focus group of 85 people recently, very few said they would get vaccinated in the event of the pandemic. That's
Okay,
not the
but
thing,
hold on,
listen,
hold on.
They
That-
say here's what Dr. McCullough says: frequent hand washing, staying away from crowded places and sick people, and eating well to maintain immune system. These sentiments are right on, as it's the health of your immune system, which is primarily controlled by your lifestyle habits, that will keep you healthy during a flu outbreak. A vaccine is not the answer, and in fact often causes many other more serious health problems. Vaccine safety advocates everywhere are beginning to make a serious dent. According to a recent Fox News poll, the majority of people in the U.S. now believe the swine flu vaccine is deadlier than the actual virus.
So wait a second. First of all, I question you because you are listening to a Fox poll.
I'm not.
which-
I'm not. I was doing that because I thought that's talking to your base.
Oh.
So
I'm talking to your
I don't know that
This
we
is
have,
from Reuters.
I don't know that we have time to go
and
into all
Emerging Health Threats Journal.
Let's get.
But-
who can
but-
we have come join us and let's talk?
So-
I mean, really, vaccines in general, because there is
We
the
should.
whole kind of debate around getting your kids with all those
Yeah.
vaccinations.
Well, I'll
when
call
they're
Jim
young.
Carrey and his wife.
Dr.
See what I
Jennifer
can do.
Ashton.
Can you get your buddies down
Yeah.
here?
Exactly.
Okay,
let's find-
Dr. Jennifer Ashton and NVIC's Barbara Loe Fisher discussing the possible dangers of swine flu versus the more serious H1N1 vaccine. I mean, it just left
So
and right.
let-
the
but
medical
let's-
I
resources.
want
let's
to
find
have
real
this
data.
conversation before I go get one.
Yeah, let's have real data.
It's
I mean,
serious. Yeah,
Just
it's very
because
serious.
healthcare workers aren't going to get it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't believe it. And I'll tell you why. My wife's healthcare worker, and what she'll tell you is because she's exposed to so much stuff all the time, her immune system is on hyper overload all the time.
Yeah.
And so what the feeling is of a lot of those healthcare workers is that they don't need it, and it's just a waste of time for them, and it might potentially make them get a headache
I buy
and feel
that.
a little ill for a
I
couple
buy
days.
that.
So to say that 85,000 healthcare workers aren't going to get it, you know, they probably won't.
No.
Because they generally don't think they need to. So
that's
I
probably true.
can't run with that and say your particular point was that the swine flu virus or shot didn't protect, only protected like 0.8% or something
and causes
like that.
more trouble
Okay,
than
causes
it's
more.
worth.
So if we go back to those, you know, kind of data points instead of looking at the anecdotal who's going to get it and who not, let's
Right.
try and find data on that to say, is that true? Because if it's true and it only helps less than 1%, why would I get it?
Right, I agree.
Right? But I'm not. I've never
Because it'd
seen
be a
that data
hassle of having to
point.
get to a place
Exactly.
to get
Yeah,
it.
So
I'm-
let's
yeah.
start there, and
Okay.
we'll put
I've
that
got.
up on the
I just
site.
can't find that site.
It's
I-
okay. It's okay for
here.
you to make
Next
up
week?
facts. The left
Oh,
does that
dude.
all the time in terms to drive their point
Oh
home.
my goodness.
Where we conservatives in the
Oh,
middle
my
really
goodness.
try to stick with the facts to
Do you
make
love
sure
how
we
the
get the truth
projection?
out there.
That's what they're.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I've
So
just,
with that, isn't it about time for us to stop for the
we do, but I have one last question for you guys.
Yeah, she just keeps going. Look at this.
I'd
You're
like-
the one who
I-
has to leave
I
right
know
now.
I
know.
do need to leave.
Yeah.
I'd like you to know what you guys think. What do you think it costs each month for to raise Michael Jackson's 3 kids?
Oh,
Wow.
I'm gonna say 80 grand.
I am going to say 3 kids, 300. I'm going to say 300,000.
A month?
Yeah.
$300,000 a month to raise them?
Because it's Michael Jackson's kids.
Oh,
I mean, it doesn't cost that much for my kids. My bill's slightly less than that.
Right.
But
It takes a lot to come up with
Wait.
those
But
3
Michael Jackson,
diamond-studded gloves.
I'm thinking
Hands
they probably
grow
have their own
quickly.
private doctor. They've got their own private nanny.
Well, you
they
gotta have
live
all
in
the
a huge
guards, too,
house.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing 200,000 a month. So
Well,
3.5 million a year.
all right. Well, Pete wins because
wow.
the answer. Well, the judge just approved for a monthly stipend for Michael's mother
Uh-huh.
to get $86,000 a month from the.
Wow.
86 grand a month.
Pretty much right on the money.
Well, and by extension, I'm also right about this healthcare virus thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So we will see.
We will
We will
see.
pick that up
I
next week.
truly look forward to
Yes.
seeing.
I do too.
more
And
about
and
that.
we still next week really
We're going to talk about Hillary Clinton.
we are going to
Oh,
talk next
okay.
week. We've got to talk about her.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
Okay.
Groovy.
We're off.
Yeah, I
We're
think we
out.
are.
We're
I
good.
think thanks for listening, everybody. Find us at beer30live.com. And
You got a new machine.
We're out.